It's a regular board meeting for the Othello School District Board of Directors, and it is June 23rd, 7:14 p.m.
Wait, it's the 24th.
June 24th, sorry.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did he not? Is that just me?
Okay, so welcome to the guests who
Okay.
came tonight, and I will accept a motion for the agenda.
I would like to make a change to the agenda.
Okay.
Under C1, I would like to pull out C1-6 for further discussion.
Would you like to pull out C1-6 and put it into C4 or C2? Would you like that in C2?
C2 would be great.
Immediately after required approvals, okay? In addition to that, I just have a request. I apologize, I'm bringing it up now. A request for a very short executive session regarding purchase or lease of property. Just 10 minutes. No action taken. If the board's okay with adding that as an agenda item.
After the meeting, I assume you're saying,
No, it would be
suggesting?
normally when we have our executive session in
Right.
F.
Okay.
Okay.
So is that, I mean, Ken, you've got a motion going right now, and if you want to add that to motion?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Would add to the executive session there for 10 minutes.
Was there any other requests on your end, Ken?
No.
Okay, so I'll just summarize this. So there's a request to remove item C1-6 and actually move it to item C2 for discussion. And then also to add a 10-minute executive session into our, it's there in our agenda, there just wasn't an item for acquisition of real estate.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion by Director Johnson, second by Director Stevenson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Talia, if you just let us know, we'll refresh once you have that in. And we'll move on to item B1, public comment. We do have a request for comment by George Colley. So George, if you come on up to the mic here for our YouTube, go ahead and state your name and.
You'll probably have to turn that on. There's a button on the bottom in the back.
Okay, I'm George Colley, and I appreciate the work that I know you must all do here, but the last few meetings I've been at, and I've read the expenditures, or some of them for the last 3 years, I don't know if I want to say wasteful, but it seems like we spend a lot of money, and I don't know if we're getting our money's worth. I know there's been a high turnover of teachers. And what really prompted my interest was the last meeting, we talked about our superintendent's bonus or raise, and anybody jump in and correct me, because I could have this wrong, but we was talking about extending contracts and gonna get a $25,000 bonus or raise, I'm not sure what that is. From a business point of view, you know, and I think this should be run like a business. And bonuses in business, you know, you receive a bonus when your work goes above the established expectations of the job. And I don't believe that's happened. At the higher end of this district, I think it's in chaos. I see teachers that we believe, and I hear it gets disrespected. And I think we're spending money. You go through the expenditures, and I understand trainings, and I understand that. I'm just hoping they're coming back and doing reports on them and training other teachers. And it's not little vacations for people. You see a lot of names on there, and I don't know the school district well, so like I said, I could be wrong. But looks like a lot of people go on a lot of things that I don't know if it benefits them or benefits the district. And so we talked about the extent of these contracts. Well, this isn't a sports team where we're trying to save a superstar. I mean, we're under contract, and I'm sure he's a nice man. I don't know the man, but I don't know if that and I also don't understand if that 25,000 goes back and it starts this year or when the third year. So there's a lot of things I don't understand, and I could have wrong, but we can't speak during your sessions, which I understand. But if I don't speak now, it doesn't get said. So I just think as taxpayers, maybe we just demand better spending. If we don't demand it, I think we deserve it. And it just looks like we're looking for ways to spend money and maybe not ways that we could save money. Like I said, I could be wrong, but that's my point of view right at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, George. So I just want to let you know this is exactly when you have a chance to be able to voice that. So thank you for doing that. That's the time to do it. Also want to just let everyone in the public know, tonight in the board meeting is our preliminary budget. We'll be having 2 more budget meetings, chances for our community to be able to look at the budget, ask additional questions based on details of the budget, and bring up concerns that they have then. So we'll have more opportunity for that. I'm going to explain the $25,000 thing later on, as we're going to get in that. It's on the agenda, and so I know it's been for what I think what we were just talking about. It's at first definitely a lot of people don't understand the purpose of it, and I think once it's explained, then most people say, okay, I see your intent there, and so maybe it'll be the same for you who are out there today. So I'll give it my best shot anyway. Okay. No other requests for public comment, so we'll move on to board member discussions. As always, Jen takes the lead.
I did not prepare something. I still need to come up with a grand total end report, but I have not yet.
Okay. We also have on there facilities discussion, or is there legislative? You almost look like you want to say something that was about legislature.
No,
Okay. You just look like you're talking.
So eager.
All right, so we have the item for facilities discussion that we wanted to keep on here in case there was new things we wanted to talk about. Is there anything that?
I think that with the informational items that we have later on, I think that addresses, the questions that were brought up in the past, and the executive meeting session later, hopefully we'll make it so that we have more information that we can discuss at future meetings.
Okay. Ken, is there
Okay,
anything
I
that you
agree.
wanted?
Yeah.
Bring up? Mike? One thing that, and you'll see it'll kind of go into the next item on here, and I know we've talked about transferring funds from the general fund to capital projects it's been over a year now, I think we've talked about it. More information that I've learned about regarding platting of the Wahidas property, costs associated with that we may or may not, the board may or may not want to start work on that. I just wanted to start that discussion again about transfer of funds, and I just feel like it's something that if we don't do it now, we're just going to keep on putting it off and putting it off. But we already know we have some priorities for facilities that we want to.
So do you have an estimated cost for the platting of the property?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I know there's going to be some significant costs involved with road improvements, things like that, in order to get a final plat.
So do we have to do the improvements to Cemetery Road to get a final plat? What road improvements are you referring to? I thought we've already paid for the 14th.
The 14th is the only one, but there's the district, to get final plat, would have to extend our road that goes, Scootney Road, all the way to the center of that pivot where we own. That's
Oh,
something that
okay.
we didn't have to do, because we didn't have final plat.
Okay,
Cemetery Road, yes, but I think there's been some agreement that that didn't have to be done right away.
until that
But
was
there-
developed or something.
And I don't know all the
Okay.
details, and that's something that Greg would be able to fill us in on all the dollar amounts, but I just thought that this is something that I think we really should have serious discussion. I think that Jeanette needs to be part of this because, I might throw out a dollar figure and it might make her go, whoa, wait. Or she might say, okay, yeah, I think that I could still make a budget around that.
Well, I think if we had a number, an estimated cost, and maybe a definition of exactly what plating is, just for general purpose, then that would change things. Then I'd be comfortable having that conversation about, are we gonna do the full amount? Is there somewhere else that these funds could come from? Before we just,
Well, we had
Pull a
talked
number
about
out of the
transferring
air, I
capital
guess.
to capital projects even for some of the other facility priorities. We talked about at our board retreat as well,
yes,
if you remember that.
yes.
Okay.
I'd be more comfortable knowing those numbers before we had the conversation about the dollar amount and how much, because we had estimates on the other costs already for those other properties that we were talking about as well. But before we actually move stuff, I'd want to know plating numbers, costs as well.
Okay.
Just really quick on the facilities, I know we're getting ready to put another portable at Wahitas. Is the plating an issue with that to get that additional permitting, or,
They got the approval from the city for that,
okay?
Oh, great.
the building permit for that, yeah.
And all of our other properties that currently have buildings on them have all had final plating? Do we know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Like, are the other portables, we've already gotten building permits for all the
I
other
believe that
portables as
that
well?
was just, you mean the previous portables? Or are you talking
Mm.
about the ones that we're doing this year?
The ones that we're doing this year for next school year.
I believe that Greg just went to oh, Greg's here. Greg, you can come, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there. Do you, Dr. Hirsch, do you want him to answer that question? Can you please? I only knew he went because he told me. You can hear from him.
Check, 1, 2, is it working?
Mm-mm.
How about now?
Nope.
How about low battery?
Groovy. George, you sucked all of our battery out.
Check. Okay. Yes, we have building permits for all 3
Great.
modulars coming in this summer.
Okay.
Are those properties platted?
No.
Oh, goody. Okay. Can you give us the definition of plating?
I couldn't give you a correct one. I would ask
Okay.
the city to give you that information.
Okay. And all of that entails and all of that fun stuff
Yeah.
too, because that's just like a curse word when we come to these meetings. So I guess getting a real definition would be helpful.
I could probably get an email sent to you guys with some information on it.
It would be good to have for when we discuss this too, so.
Would that email have costs associated with it?
For plating of Wahitas? No.
Or all facilities, all schools?
No. No, we wouldn't have any costs. I mean, I could get an email to define what plating is, but until you get into the plating process like Wahitas, we're right in the middle of it. There's a few things that have been defined that we need to address, but we have no costs associated with those yet. And as we go through the process, other things can come up.
So in order to, why is Wahitas an issue when the other schools are not, if we do not have final plating on all of the properties?
Wahitas came to the top of the list because we started the plating process in 2015
Okay,
and stopped. It didn't go any further for whatever reason, whether it was change in administration here and the city or what, but, so we agreed.
so once you start it, you're kind of screwed and have to finish?
No, we agreed with the 2 portables we brought in from Wahitas last year.
Uh-huh.
We signed an agreement that we would continue to pursue plating
Okay,
to get the building permit.
that makes sense.
Plating could cost more than what our transfer to capital project would be. I don't know, I don't think we know that number, but we can't transfer more than we can, but
Right.
if we transfer less than what we need, then it's still gonna be utilized as well, so.
Could you remind me of the number, Rob, that we thought about transferring? Was it 3 million?
We threw out 3 to 5, but those weren't based on any
Nothing specific.
hard numbers and knowing exactly what we could. Those were just numbers we threw out.
Right.
Did anyone see Jeanette's, did she flinch really bad when I said 5 on that?
I saw
wasn't looking.
movement. I didn't, I
Okay.
just not specific
red.
face.
Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this on for next board meeting. Thanks, Greg. What do we need before, as a board, before we feel like we can give a directive on this?
Estimated costs to come up with the final plating, and then the costs associated with getting the final plating. Like, just assume someone has to come and do some stuff, what their costs are, but then also the other costs associated with getting the final plat approval. Like, it sounds like scooting through to the end of the edge of property, and
Is it because you don't wanna transfer more than what would be needed?
that's part of it, because we have so many different hands in so many different baskets with facilities, that I want to have like we're doing these things with this funds, instead of just saying, oh, we're just putting some money away and we're gonna do some stuff with it, but we haven't decided exactly what. I want to have a very clear plan, what we're doing with the funds, and put that money aside.
Gotcha. What do you think, Ken?
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
Clear
Mike?
plan in front of us.
Sounds like we need a workshop to define that again.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, that would be probably a good idea.
Be a less formal setting of the discussions to go over that. Okay, well, grab your calendars.
I probably will not be able to attend anything until late July.
Okay. July 29th,
That works?
it's a Monday. 6:15?
If you guys need me to be in attendance, I will not be available on the 29th.
I think it's pretty important that you're there. Thank you for bringing that up, because I just seemingly just ignored you.
Thanks, Rob.
Sorry.
Then do we need to make sure Greg will be available
I
as well
think
to answer all kinds
The
of
next
questions?
time we pick a date, I'm then gonna look over here and make sure that
Okay.
people that need to be there can be.
Did you want me to, is that my job? Is that what you're saying? I'm looking over there?
Actually, I should do it. I'm gonna try really hard to do it this time. So 29th isn't gonna work. Are you gone for the whole week, or?
Yes, I am actually gone for that whole week.
Okay. What about the 25th? Mike won't be here. What about the 1st? Oh, that's right, the whole week you're gone. Looks like we're into August now. So the 5th is not a board meeting as well, so.
I think that works.
I can do the 5th.
Do-
Give a thumbs up
Are we
by Greg.
checking with, oh, yes, you got the thumbs up over there. Okay.
Not any dirty looks from anybody else, so, all right, so let's go with the 5th. 6:15, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, what is my delay today? And we're planning like 2 hours?
You guys, so 2 hours sound good, Ken?
That sounds good to me.
All right, 2 hours it is. Okay. Okay, the annual school board evaluation survey questions, has anyone had a chance to narrow those down?
No.
Kind of thought that was gonna be the answer. I meant to go in and do that too, so that'll ride again till next.
I'm hoping to
Board
have some
meeting.
time to do that while I'm waiting for some things soon.
It's hard to get motivated to do something that isn't gonna happen until next May, so I understand. Okay. Then we are done with board member discussions unless there's something else that the board feels we need to discuss. Move on to student representative reports. I don't know if you have anything new, Taylor, but let us know.
So all I have is I do have a possible other student rep. That's really all I got. She does exceed the GPA limit, and she is from Othello High School, or OHS. So that's all I
Someone
got.
that's interested at least.
Somebody's that interested, and told her I would get back to her about like an application and stuff. But
Once we have the date for our next training, that's what we'll make sure you share that with her.
awesome.
Right. I really think it's not going to be until the beginning of the school year.
Okay, I'll let
So.
her know. Awesome. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. If you haven't already, this would be a good time to refresh your screen before we get into Agenda C. So item C1, required approvals, I will accept a motion.
I motion we approve required approvals.
Second.
Been a motion by Director Garza to approve, second by Director Stevenson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We'll move on to item C2, which was pulled from required approvals. It's a non-PSE salary matrix. All right, Ken?
After looking at them all, I just had the question on the one with the 22.27% increase. And why so much at one time?
I think I sent an email to the board as well about that particular salary. And one of the things we talked about with the attorney is discretionary decisions that are made. So for this particular position, there was significant overtime that was occurring. And the overtime actually was not cost beneficial to the district. So one of the things that we look at whenever there's a lot of overtime by an employee is how can we save the district money? So what we did is we had a conversation with the attorney for this position. And if they are making discretionary decisions, which this position is doing that, then they would qualify for a salaried position. So when you look at the data, there's actually 9 districts. One of the districts is a salaried exempt employee as well. And that person that's receiving a salary exempt is competitive with what we submitted to the board. So it's in alignment with what the other district is receiving as far as the salary for that position as well.
Can you give it, so you said it's significant overtime. Can you give an estimated amount of overtime in the past year?
Yes, roughly 716 hours. That position is overtime for board meetings, special meetings, and there's been a significant amount of public records requests this year. So that's really due to the increase in overtime for this particular year.
So what is like the dollar amount of those 700
Now,
plus
that,
hours?
amounts to about $20,000.
Okay.
So it's extremely significant. So
So there would be a cost
it
savings
would
to the
definitely be a
district.
cost saving to the district, which is why we consider the salary exempt position.
Okay. I know you work like 24/7 yourself, so I assume that your assistant would have to as well.
Absolutely.
And I've seen them have to.
Right.
You know, and I took a look at all the duties and stuff, and It just seems like an awful lot for one person at sometimes. And,
Well, I would say that this position, as I came on board, is certainly different from, I think, the traditional executive assistant position. But what I found is that the person that's in that position is certainly able to do the duties, and has been performing the duties very well.
I would assume if that was,
Can you talk into
Two
your
posi-
mic more? Sorry.
I would assume if it was two positions, it would be
Oh,
significantly higher.
Yeah,
Yes.
it
To the
would be
district.
significantly, quite a bit.
Right.
I was just surprised at all the duties that was listed on it.
Okay. Any other discussions about this? All right, do we feel like we're ready to vote on that item? Okay,
I move that we approve the 2019-2020 non-PSC salary matrix.
Second.
there's been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve, second by Director Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. All right, and then we'll move on to superintendent informational items. We have our typical financial report, and then the cold storage update that Ken had requested, and then breakfast after the bell update. Non-PSC salary comparison with just a redundancy, I think, in there, right?
Yes.
Are there any clarifying questions by the board for this?
I guess I have a question on the food service cold dry storage. It says, I mean, it almost sounds like the report says we're waiting for you guys to decide something. And I know we haven't been asked to decide something yet, but is it us that are we the problem, or are we waiting to be asked to make a decision?
Well, this
I mean,
report was by Jeanette, right? I'm sure she could probably clarify.
And that might not be the intent, maybe that was the way I read it.
So I don't believe it was the intent. It was more of just an update for you guys and the things that we're looking at and considering. You know, these aren't, I mean, as far as the district's budget as a whole goes, they're somewhat small items, but they are significant items, and have significant costs to them. And we just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence on our end to make sure we're doing the best option for the short term for the district that we possibly can. And also looking at that long term, which is kind of the second piece, and looking at the needs of the district long term. What's our potential growth as a district? We're growing slowly but strongly, and so we want to make sure that we're any long-term really significant cost items that we're going to propose to you guys. We want to make sure that we're on solid footing with those as well on our end. So again, just more of an update for you guys that you guys had asked for, and just an FYI of the options that we're looking at and things that we're considering going into the summer, and trying to figure out what our best next step is.
I'm assuming regarding more permanent facilities for that, correct?
Yeah, definitely the more permanent facilities would be, definitely something we would run by the board and get your approval on. And then the short term as well, once we decide what that best option is for us and put forth, that recommendation.
Okay.
I know we've had discussions about looking for more permanent facilities for this. My personal feeling, as I've learned more about kind of where we're at and where we're going, was I would like to see kind of where we land after a year of breakfast after the bell. How much more food are we going through? How much more storage is needed before I feel comfortable making a long-term decision for storage? That's just me as one board member and my feelings on it. And I'm glad that we have some we're gonna be able to get through right now, and I think this is a good plan, but I acknowledge that it's not the best way to handle it, and that a more permanent facility would be good, would be better. Any other questions about any of the superintendent informational items?
Nope. I think my question's on the next section, so.
I meant to ask, and, oh, go ahead, Ken.
I was just gonna say, there's just one little typo under financial reports, ASB. If you look at the total figure, there's a comma misplaced. It makes it look like 1,700 instead of 17,000.
Thank you very much, sir.
I meant to ask this, because I know it was brought up to the board, it might have been a month and a half ago, but I meant to ask, and if you can't answer, that's okay, you might want to bring it in the next board meeting, but where are we at with not just new hires, but additional certificated positions? I know we had long-term subs that we've had fewer of them, and some of them have gotten their certification now, right? So do we have any?
Yes, sir.
Talk about that?
We actually have some recent information that was just shared with me by Sandra. So I'm going to share, Sandra, if you can share that information.
So, in regards to turnover, in the last 3 years, we've been significantly decreasing in the turnover area, so that's been nice to see. So in 2016, 2017, we were around 10% turnover. This year, we're at 4.37%, so there's been a steady decline in the last 3 years. In regards to teachers that we have on staff that are not certificated, so working as an emergency substitute, we've had around 12% of our teachers that were not certificated. This year, we're projecting about 5%. So we have hired 20 certificated teachers, and we've decided to offer conditional certs to 14 of them. Those 14 teachers we feel comfortable with. They are good teachers, and they're on pathways to becoming certificated in the state of Washington. So they'll be operating under a conditional cert, which means that they can teach with the condition of their experience and education.
14 of those 20 that you've rehired?
In
or
addition.
in addition to? Okay.
Those would be in addition to.
Okay.
The new hires this year we're really excited about, coming from all over the area, lots from out of state. And so we're really excited about the new teachers that we have this school year.
Can we plan to have, I would love to have those numbers again at the beginning of the school year, once school year starts? Because I know that, I remember last summer, the numbers looked great, and then once school started, there was a bunch of changes that were beyond control.
Yeah,
And then the numbers weren't as,
We can definitely do
Wonderful,
that. We
sweet
still
folks.
have about seven openings roughly. So we can give you a final number closer to the school year.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question on the ASB. I'm struggling finding where that typo is.
Let me pull it up here. It was under the expenses for the ASB.
I wonder if that was in accounts payable
Yeah, I think it was.
that we've
Oh.
already
Sorry,
approved.
it was
I bet
accounts
that's where it
payable.
was at, because
Okay.
the other report wouldn't have
Yes.
a comma that had been moved,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that might be where it was
I just
at.
remember seeing on the accounts payable.
Okay.
I mean,
Gotcha.
on the ASB report, that's what
Okay.
it was.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to item C4. This is the preliminary budget, and an opportunity for the board to ask for any clarification there.
I have one. Let me find the page number. There we go. Page 11.
It's right there.
Right there. Okay, so you have a projected ending fund balance for next year of $2.4 million. And so is that because you're comfortable with that we already have the 10% required undesignated fund balance?
So let me just clarify on this slide, because this is a preliminary budget, right?
Yes, right.
So you'll notice that in the 1920 column, that projected beginning fund balance box is blank. I have not been able to complete the 1819 projection work to determine what that 1920 beginning fund balance is. And so I didn't want to put forth a number that isn't truly, that I don't feel really solid and comfortable with. So that's why I left it blank. So that 2.4 isn't a projected ending fund balance. It simply is the difference between the projected revenues and the projected expenditures that are in this preliminary budget. That's all that it is.
Just the 1 year.
Point. Exactly.
Projected excess.
And again, preliminary.
Right.
I think you guys saw on the next page kind of those next steps that I'll be going through as part of the budget process before the final budget is put forth and adopted by you guys ultimately. So there's still a lot of work that I need to do and go through, so that's why this is a preliminary budget, right? Just so you guys know, the first go round, I really wanted to focus on staffing and making sure that, I could, as much as I can, capture and accurately reflect to you guys the cost of staffing. So that was my number one focus, just because it is 80% of our budget. That's a huge chunk.
Right. And do
so-
these numbers also include as if we had approved the non-PSC? I mean, I know that number is like
Yes.
a
Yeah,
0.1%.
I did
but-
include that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I know that we're still in negotiations with PSC.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that part factor in?
So I do include something for that, just because if you don't, then I don't feel like you're truly doing the process justice, right?
Okay.
So I did include something for that because I wanted to, see where that landed us. So that's, part of the process again. So I
Okay.
did include that. Again, it's a preliminary budget,
Right.
and potentially, depending on when we settle, we may or may not have the final settlement within the time for the budget. The budget is due very soon, so if it happens within the next day or week, maybe. But just so you guys, I guess, have that clear understanding of where we're at with the process, the budget is due to the ESD by the 10th, and so we're, running down the track really quickly.
The 10th of July, I'm sorry.
The 10th of July,
Can't
yes.
remember the dates from above. Okay.
Yeah, and so, if you guys have any questions on kind of those next steps, they're not in any particular order. They're just kind of what I need to go through, kind of that vetting process. There's a lot of wish list items and needs that have brought to my attention. I think some of that is appropriate to include as part of the capital projects analysis that we're going to be doing at that special board workshop in August. So, it's just, I guess, going through all of that work. That's still kind of on my plate a little bit. Okay, a lot of it.
When you say grant analysis, you're just analyzing the grants that we currently have or going after new ones? What is your definition of grant analysis in the next steps for you?
So mostly current grants. So really looking at our budgeted revenues versus our budgeted expenditures and making sure that we're spending our dollars as wisely as we can and that we're budgeting to spend all of them. That was something that I really wanted to focus on this year, is making sure that we're, budgeting appropriately,
Okay.
planning ahead.
I got a question on the legislative impacts.
Yes.
Enrichment on the levy. I know the state legislature made some changes. So, and I noticed it's increased to 250 from the $1.50 that we were down.
Yes.
So we fell within the criteria to
Yes, you
take
guys.
that back. Now, that was 250 is previously higher than what we had our
Mhm.
levy set at. I believe we're at 247.
Yes, and so just so you guys know, this preliminary budget is based on the $1.50. I did not increase the levy
Okay.
in the preliminary. I think that needs to be a discussion in this process of, do we want to increase it up? It wouldn't hit the 250. Your guys' voter-approved levy is just slightly under that. I think you'd be at like 230 or so. But you do have the option of increasing it if you guys choose to. Just so you guys have a ballpark amount of what that would be is about $700,000 for the 1920 school year. So that's, again, just a discussion point. It's not in the preliminary budget. We're not banking on it or anything. It's just informational for you guys as a board to, chew on.
When
and
does
get
our
back to
current
me.
M&O levy expire? Is it this February or the
Ye-
following?
I feel like you guys need to run next calendar year.
That's what I was thinking. So
Yeah.
next February. So the
Yeah.
current, and that would go into effect
2021.
2021. So basically the legislative decision has said, since you already have a voter-approved levy of whatever it was around $2.40, you could now collect up to that
Yeah,
because it's been approved for the 2020
20. Calendar year.
year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you had, I think
We don't have a resolution to change it, so it's still either was the maximum or what was approved.
yes, exactly. It's either what's enacted in law or the maximum that was approved by the voters. If you wanted to exceed that, you would have to run a special election
Sure,
resolution to increase that amount.
but what kind of control would the district have if, it's at $1.50 this year, it's gonna go up because it was voter approved, and is that an automatic process?
No, it's not automatic. So the process, or at least I think what I understand your question is, we as a district tell the county treasurer how much we either legally can or want to tax our voters. So we can either stick with the $1.50, or we can go to our maximum approved amount, or we can go somewhere in the middle. Because basically the way the law reads, the voter approved amount is the maximum that we can collect. So if we want to collect less than that, we can choose to do that.
Do we have to let the county know through resolution?
I believe that the budget adoption process is that approval, because as part of the formal budget document with OSPI, you input how much you want to collect from your taxpayers
I would
for that
imagine you'd
year.
want to get the board's approval on what
Yeah.
that would be though, right?
It's more formal to do a resolution. I don't feel like it's legally required, but I've seen a lot of districts who do that.
Okay, thank you. One thing I would point out, the
So-
10%,
Sorry, go on.
the 10% board policy requirement for the fund balance should be based off projected revenue.
Yes, I found that.
Okay,
It'll be correct in the next one.
all right. It's not a huge difference, but a few $100,000.
So if you have to have the preliminary in by the 10th of July, do we have to have that decision made by the 10th of July, or could we change it by the date, by the August 12th, between now and the August 12th date of having a final adoption?
I believe you have until our final adoption, but I will check with the ESD and get their kind of timeline, because you guys you're not held to the July deadline, you're held to the August. So I'll
Okay.
double check with them and see what they say.
Because it would have to be the next meeting if we
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
have that July 10th deadline.
Yeah, I will check with the ESD on timeline, and we'll send out something to the board so you guys are aware.
Okay. And then if that is the case, then we'll need to have that on as an agenda item.
Yeah, and again, the July 10th is, we just have to have it submitted to the ESD.
Right.
And so then they, have their approval process and everything. And they don't officially approve it until we do.
Okay. Maybe that will just be part of the January 5th or August 5th workshop. Maybe that was wishful thinking.
You're gonna make me sweat bullets over here. Getting it done in time.
Okay, any more questions from the board regarding the preliminary budget? All right,
It's very easy to read and to comprehend. Thank you.
Thank
That is
you.
always appreciated. I know that at some point we'll probably get like a 30-plus page report. And that's essential too, but sometimes just being able to read the simple things is great.
Yes,
too.
yes, I try to keep it high level, but get you enough detail where you're not caught by surprise by something.
Thank you.
okay, so we'll move on to item D1, board response to monitoring reports. The board completed the surveys for the ENS 1 monitoring report. And regarding ENS 1, 2 board members found that the district was making progress, but more progress was expected in certain areas. 3 found that the superintendent has failed to provide evidence of reasonable organizational progress toward achieving the desired results called for in the relevant ENS policy, and recommended following action. There's 5 comments that were listed, so I'll read all 5. The first comment said, I feel the district has many good plans and programs in place that will help to accomplish this goal in the future. However, at the present time, the numbers do not indicate that the standards or ends have been met. Second comment, I am appreciative of the information given to us by staff. I know everyone in our district works hard to try to achieve all goals established by our district. The evidence provided to us indicates that overall progress among each scholar meeting proficiency in both ELA and math goals have not been met. Information given to us indicates we are at least 20+ percentage points below our target goals we have made. The percentages show no progress from the previous year. While there was information given to us showing great progress with specific grade levels from different schools, not enough information has been given to us to show me all schools' growth for each scholar at every grade level. Third comment, while we were able to see an increase in pre-K students reaching proficiency on the kindergarten assessment for the 2018-19 school year, it was unfortunately the only measurement that showed progress. While I appreciate the areas of success in the district and acknowledge the hard work that is happening, I have to honor the indicators and measurements that were presented to and agreed upon by the board last year. When looking at SBA results district-wide, there is no change from last year and minimal growth for the past 2 years. If these are the only indicators we have to go by, it's difficult to find reasonable progress. Through direct inspection, I feel that we are making progress in preparing our students for the future, but unfortunately the indicators presented to the board to demonstrate that progress do not show the same results. It is my sincere hope that the district's work is able to produce evidence of progress in the 2019-20 school year. Fourth comment, there is minor progress being made in some areas by some schools, but many are at or below last year's scores. This is disheartening. And the fifth comment, I recognize the superintendent and his team are doing a great job in trying to achieve this end. I commend their efforts. Unfortunately, the data presented clearly delineates the lack of results. So he or they must continue striving to close the numbers and gain momentum to show progress in these areas. I feel like really these statements all kind of said the same thing, right? I think this is an opportunity for the board to have discussion about this and kind of feel, maybe elaborate a little bit more if they want to.
Again, I believe it goes back to the scorecard and the robust goals that the district has set. We agreed. Both parties were in tune to these goals. I commend them for the high bar that's set, but I think a revisit perhaps without lessening the effort or the intent. But again, I just think some of these, the only thing we had to measure by this year was some goals that are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think, goals, and I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their own, I think those goals are very lofty. I think the district has expressed their concern for some of these areas. And my comment is the one where, I mean, the data unfortunately does not reflect, I think, like you said, through personal inspection, that if you talk to a student, you know, some of the hands-on stuff that is being taught has gone, you know, somewhere, you know, some critical thinking by some students. But where we have this scorecard and these documented goals to go by, there was just not, the results weren't there. And that is why I determined what I did.
And I'm aware there's success stories out there in the classrooms. There's some teachers that have did great jobs this past year and increasing the scores and stuff and some of their students in it. And unfortunately, we can't use individual classrooms to judge us by. We have to do it as a whole. And it would be nice to hear more about the individual schools and class, because I know there is a lot of success stories out there with the staff.
I just realized I spelled the word wrong, B-U-Y, and it should have said by. You caught that? Yes. I mean, it was really disheartening for me to see these numbers. I fully expected there to be bigger improvements in the numbers, but the data that we were given, there wasn't an ability to really show successes, especially if we're looking solely at SBUS scores. So, and that's how, and we approved the goals, but they are not the board's target goals. And they were very aggressive, and I think that's great to set aggressive goals. I think that some people felt like they just were unattainable from the beginning, so I don't know if that had something to do with it, but anyways.
So the board needs to determine what comment they'd like to keep or a combination of those.
I think we also need to decide, and maybe first is, are we doing failed to provide evidence or making progress but a
Three-
greater degree?
3 board members said fail to provide.
So you're
unless
just
there's
going
a-
with that one?
Unless someone wants
No.
to change their mind.
I'm good with that. So you're asking which comment?
Yeah, we have to decide the comment that's going to go on the monitoring response document, and which will also end up in the summary that we'll talk about in just a minute.
Comment 3, I think, hits every aspect of the end, is my opinion.
I do like in comment 2 that it says, information given to us indicates we're at least 20+ percentage points below our target goals we have made. Could we incorporate that line? I know that it says that, but I know that comment 3 basically gets that gist, but I do like to have that specific number in there as well. So can we put that line with comment 3? I don't know where, somewhere in there.
Where would you like it? It's your idea, you get a pick.
Great. How about, when looking at SBA results district-wide, there's no change from last year and minimal growth for the past 2 years. Information given to us indicates we are at least 20 percentage points below our target goals we've made. If these are the only indicators we have to go by, it's difficult to find reasonable progress. Does that fit there for everybody else?
Put it in there and then continue what's left in 3, or end it? What were you saying?
Continue. I like that it specifically says direct inspection, the indicators, sincere hope, and it changing all
that's
the
a
my's to we.
Fabulous place to put that in.
Okay.
It works.
Okay.
And most of the things are spelled correctly.
You got that, Thalia? So that was a
Yes.
suggestion by Mike and Jen. How do you feel about Ken?
No, that works perfect.
Okay. So that will be put into the summary while we're finishing our discussion here, if you could. And also just reminder that anything that says I needs to be changed to we on that. Dr. Hurst, would you like to respond to the comments that the board has?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you, board, for the comments. In our conversations, just want to acknowledge to the board and to the public community, anyone listening. I appreciate the comments about the acknowledgement of the work and the progress that's being made across the district. And the thought also that the scorecard is not indicative of the progress that's being made. So I appreciate you just acknowledging that, yes, there's a lot of great work happening, and yes, there is progress that's being made across the district at school sites, but this scorecard was, as it is in its current form, is not designed to actually capture all of the successes and the progress that's being made across the district. I think one thing, just to point out to the board and to everyone else, one, realizing that this is a new scorecard, and I think we all know that, and absolutely high goals were set by myself, by the team as well, very lofty goals. I think the system is used to those high goals, but I think one of the things we have to do from this point forward is look at those goals, revise the goals, and I think one of the conversations we had as well, and Pete and I and some team members are having also, is what other metrics can we utilize to really bring out all the successes and the progress that's being made across the district. I agree that when you look at the scorecard, it's primarily based on two different things when you look at ends one, and that's the Smarter Balance Assessment, which is the end of the year. So we can be creative and innovative in looking at what other metrics can we use that's going to capture some of that progress and successes. The other component is really around Hattie's work in effect size. So really, that's all that we have presented to you to look at, and I understand the board's perspective. This is the scorecard that you were given. Now we're going to go back and revisit and revise, and then bring back probably some revised metrics and some innovative metrics as well. That's going to really capture the great things that's happening in our district, because as you shared, it's happening. It's out there. We just need to have a scorecard that's going to measure all of that. So, thank you.
Yep. So I'm ready to move on to the next item as soon as Talia is ready for me. Okay. Thank you. All right, the next item is the superintendent annual evaluation. So this is just a summary of all the monitoring response documents of ELs and Ns throughout the year that we evaluate in our board meeting. None of these would be a surprise to anyone who has read them in meetings or to the board or to the superintendent. They're just all put into one document. What the board did come up with today was then a summary comments, and I will read those comments. We would like to start with commending you on the results of your EL monitoring reports. Thank you for operating within the guidelines that have been established for you while you lead your staff in the work that is needed to achieve the ends. Keep up the good work. In regards to the ends policies, we do not want to diminish the work that is being done around the district to show growth in the three areas. We understand and honor the outstanding staff in the Othello School District, and we are thankful to have them all. As we have reflected on the monitoring reports and the metrics that were agreed on to measure growth in ends policies, we can't help but wonder if the focus is too broad. There are many ways to measure if a student is growing and becoming more prepared for life after their K-12 education, but there are so few measurements used in the monitoring reports. In addition, the goals are for the entire district as a whole, which makes it difficult to identify areas of success as well as areas that need more attention. This would make it easier to provide specific feedback in our monitoring response documents regarding progress in certain areas while identifying specific areas that need more attention. You were hired partly because of your desire to take innovative approaches to educate students, but it seems that our measurements for success follow a more traditional approach. Maybe innovative approaches need more than traditional methods to measure progress. While using common assessments to measure student growth and preparedness is helpful, we feel that is not the determining factor for the future success of our students. We don't have the answers, but we hope to see more diverse ways of measuring progress for ends policies in the future. We are not suggesting that we lower the bar, just that we may want to use several more non-traditional data points. As a board, we would also like the ends policies monitoring reports to be presented by the superintendent in the future. As this is our primary focus for your evaluation, we feel that this is important. So that was a summary the board came up with in general. And we had the opportunity to talk to you, Dr. Hurst, about that before in executive session, and you felt that that was fair, and you're looking forward to some changes next year to be able to share
Absolutely.
all that with us.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments that the board wants to make regarding the annual summative evaluation? Okay. So that leads us then to item D3, the superintendent employment contract. So Dr. Hurst, to discussion with you, and you first led and let us know what kind of your feelings on the contract. And then discussion to the board, we came up with the contract we did. And one thing I think is important to mention for the public is that Dr. Hurst actually requested that we have no bonuses put in for him. He felt that that took away from the work, and that maybe people were feeling that his motivation was the bonuses. And in the end said, I would be fine if I just got the base salary. And that didn't surprise me that Dr. Hurst said that. The first year that we offered a contract to him, he actually asked that we remove the incentive bonus for meeting goals because he didn't want anyone to think that was his reason for being here. And to kind of give history, and so hopefully, George, I'll be able to help you understand where we're at with this. In our policies, we have said to our superintendent that we want him to consider performance pay for all staff. If we expected him to consider performance pay for all staff, then we felt that how could we not then also consider it for him? We needed to set the example on that. It's a difficult thing to do, to put performance pay in for staff. We found this out this last year in negotiations. We essentially offered it, and it was rejected. They didn't want it. But we still felt it was important to say, we're going to set a really high bar, and if the district achieves these goals, then the superintendent and his staff, and through his leadership with his staff, it's been earned. The other item is the $25,000 contract renewal bonus. And I guess we refer to it as a signing bonus or whatever you want to call it. And I guess I'll just go back a little bit kind of historically with our previous contract before Dr. Hurst came in. It was a guaranteed wage. It was 3 years. It automatically renewed to a third year every year unless the board by February, I think it was the end of February, said we are not extending that third year of the contract. Nothing in that was built around incentive. Nothing in that was built around whether or not the board liked the work that was being done. So when this was created, and I can't take credit for how it was written, I think it was written very well, but the idea was that after a year, after that first year, so the salary would be offered at the low range of any of the salaries that we compared. And 157.5, if you look at all the salaries of the 10 districts we looked at, or 9 districts, it is the lowest. And I don't mean the lowest base salary. I mean if you look at what the guaranteed money was and the cost to the district, it's the lowest for sure. And to me, that's all that matters, the taxpayer's cost to the district. I can tell someone you're making $130,000, but then slide in $50,000 in deferred compensation, another $30,000 for your health insurance and all this stuff. It's still costing the district that money. At the end of that first year, then we said, if we like the work you're doing and we decide we're going to extend that third year on to the end of the contract, you will get a one-time bonus of $25,000, which will now, you won't be the lowest paid, you will be toward the higher end, but not the top. So it would move you up that scale for that year. If for whatever reason the board says, you know what, we want to go in a different direction, there is 2 years left on your contract, but we're not adding a third year to it. And as a result, you won't get the $25,000, and you'll be paid the $157.5, which would be the lowest pay. We haven't tried to kid Dr. Hurst about it at all. We were very intentional with that, so that if we don't think that Dr. Hurst has taken our district in the right direction, or whoever the superintendent is, and they don't get the $25,000, our expectation is we've just sent them a message as a board that says, we want to go a different direction, and the expectation is that the superintendent would probably say, I'm going to go a different direction.
Can you talk more into your mic?
Yes.
Thank
Getting
you.
pretty elevated, so I didn't.
You
know if I
are,
needed
you
to
keep moving
off.
back further and further.
So, it's not a raise, it's essentially, I think what most districts would have done in this situation is said, you get 182.5 and here's a 3-year contract. We didn't want to do it that way. We wanted to give ourselves as a board an opportunity to encourage the superintendent to look elsewhere if we felt that we wanted to go in a different direction. That's it.
Is that $25,000 every year, though, that he resigns?
If we resign, so that if we say we want you another 3rd year. So essentially it comes out to, it is 182.5 for as long as we want the superintendent here until the last 2 years. Then it would drop if the board says we don't want to go this direction anymore. So that's, I don't know if I've explained it well, or if you understand it more, but that was the reason for it, rather than having a guaranteed amount. And one of the discussions we had was if you have a guaranteed amount for 2 more years, someone might just say, I'm getting paid good money, I'm gonna ride this out for a couple more years, even if that's not really what's in their heart and that's not what the community or board wants. And so that was our reasoning.
I need to speak up quicker. So every year that it's extended, it's another 25, so pretty soon, no?
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
it's one time 25.
One time,
So it's
okay.
157 plus 25, or just 157.
Okay, but the next year it's not another 25.
Not unless we extended that 3rd year and it's just 125, it's just 25 on top of the 157 again. At 25,000 is one time, but it's not 25, then 50, then 75, then 100. It doesn't go like that.
It's the difference between 157 and 182.
And I think it's important, I mean, we don't normally engage the audience, but it's important, I think, for people to understand that.
I just thought every year that we extended it, he got another 25, and pretty soon he priced himself right out of, hopefully priced
Like-
himself out of a job.
No, it's one
Right.
of those 2 options.
It isn't
And
a
it's the
raise,
board's
that's what I was saying.
decision.
So it adds on every year. And I know that Dr. Hurst is uncomfortable with these conversations because he's not even comfortable with the financial discussion. But I think it's important for everyone to understand, and I think even the board, we've had a lot of discussions, and it maybe could be worded in a better way. I'm not denying that, but the intent, I think, is good. In the discussion that we had today, just to be really clear what the board's discussion was and what we came to, the only change we made to the contract for Dr. Hurst was that instead of being 3 years, it's 2 years. It essentially has the same result. If we don't re-sign after next year, if we don't say, Dr. Hurst, we want you for another year after this coming year that's left on your contract, then the $25,000 extension won't apply. And Dr. Hurst will get the message that we're looking to go in a different direction.
We're not happy.
And so it's as simple as that. With that being said, we're all happy with the work that Dr. Hurst is doing. We know that that good work is going on. We know that we can show improvement in areas, and we're hoping that next year in our reports that we're able to see those pockets and the good things that are happening at each school that we know are. And it really comes down to the reporting of it. And so the contract did not change other than it's 2-year rather than 3-year now. And the rest has remained the same for this coming year. And so I think we do need an official vote by the board to approve this contract if we feel comfortable doing that tonight.
So this is a replacement of the former contract.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that, and
So
the
this is effective
dates
July
are-
1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2021.
Okay. And pretty much all the rest of the details has remained the same, other than the dates
Yes.
that we've changed.
Yes, and hopefully we changed those and I captured them all.
I just changed the last page. It still has the dates for last year and Tony's, and that's what's printed out for your signatures. Now we'll
Oh, we have different directors on here.
yeah,
She just printed
fixed it.
Gotcha. That's what that was. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay,
Minor
so-
details.
So we'll approve we can approve this with any knowledge of dates that need to change and also board member changes, so.
I move that we approve the superintendent contract. I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't know how to say,
The proposed
yes, the proposed,
superintendent employment contract for 2019 through 2021.
Second.
Been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve, a second by Director Garza. Any further discussion on this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Dr. Hurst, we look forward to the work next year and to you providing us ends monitoring reports.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Board.
Our next item is E1, review discussion of current board policies. This is EL12 in for a second reading. It just has that item that was added to our discussion last time that says end in force. The board have a chance to kind of digest this and see if we like it.
I'm good. I know that there was a lot of discussion before. I'm good with the way that it's currently written. I mean, we might need to tweak a few words here and there next year, but we're finally at this point. Yay.
This was a quick one. Ken, you good?
I'm good with it.
I move we approve EL12.
Before
I'm sorry.
a second, I'd like to get Dr. Hurst's interpretation of it again, just a final interpretation.
Details, yes.
Absolutely. So I think some of the key words when you look under Section A is written expectations. So making sure that we have written expectations in place. And then also some of the key words is utilizing technology that the district has made available to them. So we discussed this, that it's not just limited to Chromebooks, but we're looking at multiple forms of technology that we're making available to our teachers and our staff. And I think the other piece that's key is the enforcement piece. So that not just establishing, but actually enforcing the written expectations. So that's what I have.
Okay. And I think it's important, there was a question that came up from the community after this discussion last time. This does not mean anyone can then bring any technology into the district. This is specifically technology that the district has made available. And if it's a bring your own device, if there is a school that allows a student to bring their own device to use in an educational way, that will still be, there will be expectations for those. There will, when people get on our internet in the school district, they still have, things are blocked just as if they had a school district device as well. So just to clarify that, it's not just a wide open door for technology. And we have a motion by Director Stevenson to approve.
Second.
Second by Director Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Our next item then is the executive session that we just need 10 minutes. And no action will be taken following that executive session, so we will, do we need a recess for a couple minutes first or go right into that? Okay, we will go right we'll go to Dr. Hurst's office so the room doesn't have to be cleared. Be back right around 8:40.
I think you can go.
Yeah.
Gonna find some chocolate though, so I can eat it on the way to the next. Now I have, it was a certain thing that I wanted, where's it at? Maybe I've already eaten
Sign
it.
that.
Oh, there it is, Heidi. The bottom. Okay. Yay, hi. I need to sign.
I see what you're saying. I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'm gonna bring it. I'll sign that. See you, Taylor.
Bye.
out of executive session, back into a regular meeting. Item G1, upcoming events, is empty. Nothing's going on. Item G2.
I could just remind you, this Thursday at the
Right.
Catholic Church, the ACDC, Adams County Development Council is having their yearly banquet. The guest speaker, president of Washington State University, is speaking.
Is there tickets that need to be purchased for that?
There's tickets that need to be purchased. You could get hold of the ACDC office here in Othello at the County Services Building
Okay.
for that.
Thank you, Ken. Any other events that you think of? Okay. All right, item G2, please complete your evaluation of today's meeting. You guys all finished? I'm only showing 3. It's letting you do it again, so you must not have.
5, there's not 5. There should be 4.
No, you're talking about weighted averages.
Oh, I
Answer
see.
3. I think it's letting you do it again, Mike, so you must not have. That's probably what happened. Yeah. Okay, now 4 in. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. 4 said commendable. The board followed its agenda, did not allow itself to get sidetracked. 4 said commendable. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. 4 said commendable. All board members participated in discussion, no one dominated. 3 said commendable, 1 said good. Board members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. 3 said commendable, 1 said good. Board actions occurred at a policy level rather than an operational level. 4 said yes. The board agenda referenced policy about each topic that was discussed. 4 said yes. The board chair helped the board efficiently conduct its meeting. 4 said yes. The board supported the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policy. 4 said yes. Under new or modified policies, did the board write a new or modify an existing policy during this meeting? Yes, we did modify a policy. The board started with a broad statement and became more detailed in the logical and disciplined sequence. 3 said yes, 1 said not applicable. I'm not going to talk about it. The board asked the superintendent to provide its reasonable interpretation of the policy. 4 said yes. Overall meeting, 4 said it was commendable. Well done, board. One comment I want to make, so I think in the contract, if the verbiage before said if there's an extension, it'll be the $25,000 bonus. I know it was the board's intent for the 25,000 bonus, but technically there was not an extension. I think the board needs to look at this and possibly we might have to have a special meeting to correct that to the board's intent. But the board's intent was for the superintendent to get a $25,000 bonus, correct? So we have to make sure we read that. I'll read it and see if maybe we missed that in our intent. So,
I think if we do have another meeting, then we definitely need to have it be YouTubed.
yeah, okay.
Because sometimes we don't have our special meetings YouTubed.
We don't.
I think
That's our policy, but if we ask as a board to do it, that's fine.
yes, because of the significance of it.
Right, and
I
I think
think
in our
that we need to.
discussion we had about how that could be worded to say, if a new contract is offered and signed, a $25,000 bonus will be paid.
Or
then
an
that would have solved
extension.
it.
Right,
Well, then-
right, but
Then you don't need extension because you'd be signing a new contract each time. In any case, I'll contact the board about possibly a good day for a meeting for that. Okay. All of our business is complete. Meeting's adjourned.